Welcome back. My next guest says that President Trump is running out of options in the wake of what happened to his former attorney, Michael Cohen. And his best play at this point would be to actually resign the presidency and cut a plea deal. And he also knows what he's talking about. That's because he was an ethics attorney for President George H.W. Bush. Richard Painter, he joins us now via phone. Richard, thank you for the time.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Well, you laid out the way that this usually plays out, which is a lot of cases where a client gets time, but the lawyer who helped him gets no time. Some cases where both attorney and client get time for a crime mutually committed, but very few, if any, cases where only the lawyer gets time. And then you ask the question, is it deal time for the president? If Cohen got 3 years, you got to think, if he's doing it at the behest of his client, that Trump's looking for at least as much trouble. I guess that's your argument, right?
Well, yes. I mean, this situation with Cohen doesn't even involve the Russia allegation. At least this guilty plea is entirely separate from the Mueller investigation. So here we've got Cohen got 3 years for doing things, illegal things for Donald Trump. It's going to be very difficult for Donald Trump, particularly if Cohen is cooperating with the prosecution, not to have serious criminal liability with respect to those things. And then we've got the Mueller investigation on top of that. And we have this former campaign manager, Manafort, is in very hot water. Michael Cohen is cooperating with Robert Mueller, and a long list of other people cooperating with Mueller. And so I think the president's in very serious legal jeopardy. So what he really ought to be doing is thinking serious about cutting the deal now. Well, he's got the negotiating power. We had this with Spiro Agnew, too, back in 1973, and he give up the office, resign as part of the plea bargain, and I think that the prosecutor and the judge would take that in consideration and give him a good deal. I'd certainly much rather do that if I were on his side than wait till he's out of the Oval Office and then get prosecuted for this. I think that he'd be in much worse shape doing that.
And it even gets further complicated because he's not the only one potentially looking at exposure. His immediate family, including his children, son-in-law, etc., they could be looking at indictments sooner than later. So I would suppose if he's going to be dealing with, I don't know about a position of strength, but certainly with the leverage of the office, he could maybe cut a deal that would protect not just himself, but extended family as well, and also maybe business interests. I mean, would that be the crux of the deal? I'll walk away, but you don't go after me for $1, let alone anyone in my family.
Jared and Ivanka and Donald Trump Jr. and anyone else in the family in any type of deal he negotiates. All of them have some exposure in the Mueller investigation. We don't know all the details yet. Robert Mueller knows. But there's a reason the president is petrified of Robert Mueller. We'd like to get rid of him. And as I say, everybody else all around him is copping a plea. So this is not a good situation for him or for Jared Kushner, Ivanka, any of them, Donald Trump Jr.
Richard, would he, if he were to enter into a negotiated plea agreement, could he do it with both the feds and the states? I mean, the new incoming state attorney general in New York has already said she's going to be going after the foundation, the Trump organization, Trump himself, in terms of some state exposure from some of his business practices. Would the negotiated plea probably go under every state that's looking at me as well as the feds, one size fits all?
Well, if I were his lawyers, if I were him behaving rationally, I'd try to get a plea that covered both the federal and state charges, work a deal with Congress, and resign the presidency as part of the plea bargain, and then be done with it, know what his exposure is. If he leaves out the state charges, then the state charges could come along. It would be very, very damaging for him or for members of his family, and he cannot pardon anyone for state charges. So I would think he at least ought to take a try at including the state charges as well. But all this assumes that he's going to behave rationally, which unfortunately may not be his characteristic.
And to that is my final question, whether it's the lack of rationality, but also you'd have to swallow a lot of pride here to basically acknowledge you're wrong and take a deal and walk away in shame. Do you believe that his counsel now at least is floating this as an option to their client to say, Mr. President, if you're going to ever cut a deal, now's the time to do it. It's not after Mueller comes down with his findings.
Well, yeah, I think he's going to get a lot better deal now when he has something to give up, and he could save the country a lot of trouble. and and pack it in. And he can get on that plane and do the Nixon salute and everything, say he made America great again, and he's going back to New York. But we've gone through 2 years of this, and it's just getting worse and worse for him, and it's dragging our country down, and it's a very bad situation.
No debate from me. Richard Painter, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, coming up next, the funding fight. Will Democrats trade wall funding for critical infrastructure projects? It's a deal that President Trump could put on the table. Well, we're going to be joined by New Jersey Democrat. He'll tell us whether or not he's ready to play hardball with the White House.